All right, coming up, we have a couple Supreme Court cases that deal with Congress and congressional seats, and that leads us to a couple topics that we're going to need to understand, and that's called reapportionment. So 2.33, we get two cards for this unit. It's pretty short this lesson, pretty short little lesson. Reapportionment and redistricting will be the second one, 2.33, 2.34. Reapportionment, sometimes it's called apportionment, but to apportion something means to like give it out, to distribute it out. So that's what we're talking about is reapportionment means you're going to do it again. You're going to go out and apportion something, in this case, congressional seats, again to the states. All right, backside flip. This occurs every 10 years after a census. Every 10 years after a census. Remember, and make a note after census, every year that ends in zero. That's what a census is done. So every 10 years that ends zero. So 1800, 1810, 1820, 1830. And then add every on years ending in zero. And I'm going to actually have that on the next click. I should have fixed it, but I didn't. All right, so here's the important thing. Congressional districts are redistributed among states in the House. Congressional districts are redistributed among the states in the House based on population changes. So House seats or congressional districts, House congressional districts, are based on population changes. You don't need to do the Senate, right? I mean, they got two. There's no reason, there's no district, it's just the whole state. Senate doesn't have to be done, but the House does because that's based on population. So you got to account for population changes. So one state might have 10 House seats and then it grows really fast and now it's got 10 or 12, goes from 10 to 12. Another place might have 5 congressional districts, but it's slow growing or actually went negative. And so now it's got 4 congressional seats. It loses representation. Looking at this chart here, the number of, this is predictions on 2020 census, because we've got a 2020 census going on. And a couple things that you notice. One, the states that are gray stay the same. They're not losing any representation. They're not gaining. The states in pink are losing. Dark pink, like New York, going to lose 2 congressional seats probably. That's projected. Green are gaining. Light green, 1. Regular green, like Florida, 2. And then look at Texas. It's going to gain 3. It's going to go from 36 seats up to 39 congressional seats. And then California might lose 1, might lose 2. They're not really sure. Maybe it doesn't lose. Maybe it only loses 1. Maybe it doesn't lose anything. All right, so that's the way it looks. All right, based on some projections right now. We'll see when the census is actually done. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to have to reapportion the seats based on population. All right, and this leads to redistricting. So once you've reapportioned and Texas gains 3 congressional districts, 3 House seats, now it has to redistrict those House seats to make sure that the population is equal. Matter of fact, all the states have to redistrict, at least states that have at least 2 districts. I mean, some states like North Dakota only have 1 House seat, so they don't have to redistrict because it's the whole state electing that 1 House member. But every other state has to redistrict that has at least 2 House seats because they have to make sure that the population is equal. All right, that leads us into redistricting, 2.34. All right, redistricting. Notice district is in the middle of this because you're going to redraw the district. Congressional House seat number 1 in Virginia, Congressional House seat number 2 in Virginia. Whatever state it is, you have to redraw those to make it equal population backside. So you're redrawing and adjusting the electoral district in the U.S. after a census and reapportionment. So a city might have been in one district in one election and gets switched after the census. Or maybe it gets an entirely new district because a new House seat was added. All right, so redrawing electoral districts in the U.S. after a census and reapportionment. And the purpose is to make the district approximately equal in population. So around 750,000, probably in the next apportionment, it'll be closer to 800,000 per district. We're talking about how Brutus 1 would be flabbergasted that you'd have that many people represented, one person representing that many people. He wouldn't, Brutus would not think that's good representation. And then this is a really key point. Who does the redistricting? Who redraws these districts? The state legislature. Congress, federal Congress in Washington, D.C. does not redraw their own House districts. The state legislatures do. So if the state legislature is controlled by Republicans, then they're going to redraw those districts to kind of help Republicans. But if the state legislature is controlled by Democrats, then they're probably going to redraw it to help Democrats. And that we'll see that when we talk about gerrymandering. All right, so that is the lesson on reapportionment and redistricting. Make sure you know them, write them out on your whiteboard, study them, and do the practices on them. Make sure you can define them well. Thank you.